Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, all across the world. It's indeed a privilege for me to be in conversation with a distinguished diplomat on an online platform today. It's also a matter of pride for us at Destination Heritage that former ambassador Pascal Alan Nazareth is discussing about his bestseller autobiography, A Ringside Seat to History, on a virtual platform. We have had our platform an archaeologist Padma Awardee, a princess, five distinguished foreign scholars, a former ambassador, and today an eminent former adventurous diplomat. That means our webinars have been well received. It is with mixed feelings that I finished reading the book. It's a frank and honest recounting of facts with no boasting of his achievements. We get to know that a diplomat's life, contrary to being a cushy one, is shaped by hard work, devotion, observations, and reflections. Ambassador Nazareth comes out as a warm, amusing person for whom no situation is beyond a solution and going through life's tragedy with so much fortitude and grace. His autobiography, A Ringside Seat to History, was released on September 1st, 2020, which brings to the fore his skills as a storyteller diplomat. A finely crafted first person narrative, more like a novel and a page turner. It's laced with understated humor. Historic events mentioned at close proximity is captivatingly juxtaposed with anecdotes and personal observations. His ringside seat to history began on the first day of his joining Indian Foreign Service in May 1959. The reader gets to know how he navigated the Cold War rivalry, bringing to the fore India's non aligned foreign policy and other global developments. We also get glimpses of his personal rapport with individuals across the world, as well as the description of places and how diplomats live their lives, as the experience is so diverse in diverse lands. This book has 14 chapters and it has got 10 annexures. And in the last, we have messages from celebrities of none less than the presidents across the world. There are 31 rare pictures with legendary names, and one standing out was a photo shoot post dinner with the three former British prime ministers and Morarji Desai and Lord Mountbatten sitting perfectly cross-legged on the floor when Ambassador Nazareth was London's Deputy High Commissioner. So this is a picture that I thought I must show. This is his autobiography book. And this is the beautiful picture wherein you find Mr. Nazareth here, and you find that there are three former prime ministers, number 1, 2, and 3, with Morarji Desai and the leader of the opposition, and then we have Mountbatten, who is sitting cross-legged here. And it was a moment which was really embarrassing for Ambassador Nazareth, because he was standing, because he came late and the photo shoot was already in progress and he wanted to sit cross-legged. So I think this is one of the very nice, I think I was very much touched with this picture. So I just thought I must show it. Now, if that's the book, now who is this man? Mr. Pascal Alan Nazareth was an adventurous diplomat with 35 years of distinguished service and 25 post-retirement years. His presence of mind, tact, and foresight have stood him in good stead. He has been a guest speaker at many prestigious universities in India and abroad. The author of two books, his book Gandhi's Outstanding Leadership has been published in 12 Indian and 23 foreign languages. None other than Mikhail Gorbachev has written the foreword for 12 of the foreign editions. In 2007, he was the recipient of the Youth and Peace Award for his lifetime of world service. He joins the ranks of the likes of Pope Paul II, Mother Teresa, the Dalai Lama, Mikhail Gorbachev, Nelson Mandela, and Desmond Tutu. He has delivered the International Day of Nonviolence keynote address at the UN in New York in 2012 and at Geneva in 2017. His post retirement years have been dedicated to reviving Gandhian ideals. Ambassador Nazareth is founder and managing trustee of Sarvodaya International Trust. From a diplomat to a Gandhian scholar is indeed a remarkable, and he is a role model not only to serving civil servants but to one and all who know him. He is also the trustee of the Lotus and Chrysanthemum Trust, which is a Indo-Japanese cultural organization. A warm welcome to you, Ambassador Shah, and we are all looking forward to your recounting of your personal experiences that you have crystallized in your autobiography book, Ring Seed to History. The picture also is very beautiful, whereas you have made it as a ringside. So, having said that, Ambassador Sir, can we now proceed? Can we get into the conversation part?
Yes, yes. But may I say, first of all, very many thanks for your very generous introduction of me. I'm really touched. And I'd just like to make one comment about the photo which you showed. It's a historic photo. It's the most important photo in my entire collection, with three former British prime ministers and the leader of the opposition there. But the one correction I'd like to make is I did not come late to that event, because that would have been unforgivable. But we were all standing there, and the photo was about to be taken. Lord Mountbatten suddenly said that, I'm hiding the prime minister. He was standing sort of next to him, but, much taller than him. He said, I'm hiding the prime minister. He is the chief guest, not me. So he went down, and sat cross-legged on his on the carpet. When this happened, obviously, High Commissioner B.K. Nehru had to go on the carpet. The Foreign Secretary Jagat Mehta had to go on the carpet, and poor Mrs. Nehru also had to go. And if you see from that picture, the
Yes.
poor woman
Yes.
cannot manage it, so she's just on her knees. Now,
Yes.
I wanted to go down. There was no place. Sitting in front of me was the Foreign Secretary. By that time, they took the picture. So, to my great embarrassment, in that important picture, the most important people are sitting on the floor, or some of the most important people, and I'm standing. That is the background to that picture, and why I am standing while all the others are sitting. Now you're very
Now,
welcome.
now that's a perfect start to ask my questions. See, I just listened to you some time back, and my facts are not very clear. So I now begin with asking you. You have written this book nearly a quarter of a century after retirement. Yet you have mentioned every event in such minute detail that it seems as if it happened recently. You have made real life events more interesting than fiction. We would like to know how you were able to recall such minute details, with the only exception of the name of the director of British Council at New Delhi in 1983.
Yeah, I might begin by saying that ultimately I even discovered the name of that British Council director. It was James Ure, and I made a lot of inquiries, and ultimately, amazingly, it was my wife who remembered that this was his name, because she knew also his wife. Now, I must tell you, though colleagues had told me that I should be writing my autobiography. In fact, the person, the most important of them who told me that was B.K. Nehru, who, sort of nicknamed me as our James Bond. He said, Alan, you better write your autobiography. Just your pursuit, successful pursuit of Dharma Teja itself will make your book a bestseller. So it was vaguely in my mind, but I had not really thought of it, and most probably I might never have written it. The person mainly responsible for my writing it is my son Andy, who kept on nagging me, that I had spent all my time writing about Gandhi. He said Gandhi is so well known, there are already 800 books written about him. And you have now spent all this time writing about, writing two more books about him. He said, your own story is much, much more interesting, particularly for the younger generation. And in fact, it will be a great inspiration for them, particularly for those who aspire for the foreign service. So not his constant nagging, I finally decided that I would write it. I began to write it on my 80th birthday. Now, I must give also maybe some credit to my wife, Isabel. When I was leaving to join the Foreign Service, she was just my sweetheart then, she gave me a gift, and that gift was a diary. I had never written a diary before, but once I got to the IAS training school, since she had, my good friend had presented this diary to me, I began to write a diary. This is how I got the habit of writing a diary, and in every one of my posts, of course, once I went abroad, I had a secretary, and he would maintain a diary for me. When I was leaving, in every case, I said, you don't need this diary any longer, so I'm taking it with me. So I had a whole collection of diaries. The other thing I had also done was, whenever something important happened in which I was involved, I would sort of the newspaper clippings of it. And for every one of my posts, I had a file. So I had all the material, but I had never really looked at it until I decided to write this biography on my 80th birthday. It took me nearly 3 full years to write it. It was so much easier to write my 2 books on Gandhi than my autobiography, because there is so much of material. You don't know what to include, what not to include. Everything looks interesting. But anyway, fortunately, I managed to put it all together. When it was finished, it came up to 1.25 lakh words, as my publisher told me. He said, sir, it's all very interesting, but I'm afraid we cannot publish a book of that length. So we will have to cut it down to about 75,000 words. Fortunately for me, the editor that he found, a lady called Ranjana Narayan, was really very excellent. She then cut it down from 1.25 to 75,000. But in doing so, she knew exactly what to cut out and what to leave in. As I told her later, and I thanked her, that you made a rough cut diamond into a well cut, highly polished crown jewel. And I'm really very grateful to her, also to the publisher, whose designer, designed the cover. And I think it is done so well because the photo on the cover seems so alive, really, that it fills my heart with joy every time to see it. So that is briefly the story of how I came to write my biography and how it came to be published.
I think it was your meticulous way of documentation and then recall, aided by the notes from your diary, that today has enabled you to come out with this very interesting book. And you were lucky enough to have an editor who could edit and make it so very crisp, so much so it is a page turner. And then once you catch hold of that, it is until you put it down, you don't feel like doing any other work. At least I took some little time because I had some other works also, but otherwise it is indeed a racy novel, I would say, rather than your own autobiography. It is very well written, very well edited, and very well brought out by the editor. So congrats once again, Ambassador Nazareth. Now my next question would be, in the fascinating chapter on Burma, you have mentioned your arachnophobia, that is, his fear of spiders, and your wife Isabel's and newborn baby's health crisis because of your upsetting the tree spirits by pruning the trees in your house compound and therefore having to appease them with cakes and gin. Please recount this for us, sir.
Yeah, I got this great fear of spiders as a very young boy. Those days, I spent my early years studying in Mangalore and stayed in my grandmother's house. It was a big and spacious house, but the toilets were separate from the main house, and they were out in the compound. Uh, one day when I was in the toilet, to my horror, I saw suddenly that from somewhere, I don't know how, suddenly a big, really big, almost the size of my hand, spider had come down and now had parked itself right on the door handle. There was no way I could get out, without touching that handle on which the great spider was. I must have stayed in that toilet that morning for maybe 20 minutes or more, until finally the spider decided that he wanted to go somewhere else. And then he sort of, climbed the wall and went into the room. But that left me such a great, it was sort of sunk into my subconscious, and I was terribly frightened of spiders. So for me, to arrive in Burma and to see this, the residence allotted to me, it had not been occupied for 3 or 4 months because my successor had left earlier, and I think someone was appointed. He got out of it, and I then landed. In every room, there were 3 or 4 really enormous black spiders. I told my wife, I am afraid, and the staff who received me, I can't enter this house until all these spiders are, laid to rest. So we went out on a sort of a sightseeing of Rangoon, and they gave these people 3 or 4 hours to clean up everything before we came back. And when we came back, as I've written in my book, they showed me 2 somewhat spacious boxes of all the dead spiders. However, that was one thing which gave me a creepy feeling about Rangoon. Now, Isabel, for the first 2 years that we was there was no sign of a baby, and we were not particularly unhappy because there was so much to do in terms of our social obligations. But on my birthday in the 3rd year, she gave me the good news that she was expecting our first child. We were very happy, and we wrote to the families who were absolutely delighted. And everything was going well until I think 6th or 7th month, when all of a sudden the socialist government of Burma decided to nationalize all the hospitals in the country, including the very old and very reputed, renowned ones. All of a sudden, we found that the Sacred Heart Hospital, where Isabel was being treated, was also taken over by the government. And you had this amazing situation where one doctor, the doctor in charge of the Dufferin Hospital, which was the government hospital, was now in charge of 4 or 5 hospitals. And she couldn't receive anyone sort of personally except in exceptional and emergency cases. So she can only be consulted on the telephone. So she was sort of, prescribing things for Isabel. And her condition was becoming a bit worrisome. Now, when there are heavy rains in Rangoon, all the greenery in the compound, the spacious compound was wonderful. But the trees are huge and sort of overgrown. And during the winter, the inside of the house looks, even at midday, very gloomy inside. And this itself was further worrying Isabel. So I decided to chop off some of the trees. So I called the Burmese gardener. And he made various excuses to say, no, I'll do it today, I'll do it tomorrow, and something. Or he never did it. So I called, told my Burmese chauffeur, his name was Manikam. But Manikam, you do it. It's not very easy. Get a ladder and chop off all the low light. So he did it immediately. Then started the problem. Isabel's condition went from bad to worse. Every day it was some new problem. Then she went to the hospital. The baby was born. After the baby was born, she got a breast abscess. Then the baby got a breast abscess. She was 4 pounds and 4.20 pounds. And then she got a thing really was absolutely terrible and dreadful. I thought I'm going to lose both my wife and my child. When the wife of a Burmese commander, who is our neighbor, comes to the hospital, she is Isabel, and after she's seen us, she sort of tells me, Alan, I want to tell you something. You come with me. I go with her, and when we are in her car, she tells me, she was British. She tells me, I've lived in this country long enough to believe a lot of the things which the Burmese believe. She said, all Isabel's problems are because you cut those trees. So the only thing you need to do now is to make an offering of 4 cakes and 2 bottles of gin to the spirits. He said, you needn't do it yourself. You tell your Burmese gardener, he'll do it. So, for me, it was a real moral dilemma. Here is this British woman, a devout Catholic, goes to Mass every day, telling me, a fellow Catholic, that I should offer obeisance to some tree spirits. But it had reached such a point I didn't want to take any further chance. So I told the Burmese gardener, you please do it. And he did it very willingly. He said, sir, now I must tell you. I didn't cut those trees because I knew exactly what would happen. And he offered those trees, those cakes and those gin, and all of a sudden, the problem was solved. Isabel's condition improved. And 7 or 8 or 10 days later, she and the baby came home. And there have been no problems ever since. Now, it was in Burma I came to realize and came to acknowledge that, each of us is taught whatever it is about our own religions, and we are taught to respect all religions. Okay, but we have never been told anything about these, weird tree spirits and others. But from that time onwards, I have come to acknowledge that there are so many things that we do not know. The universe is populated with so many things. It is much better to respect and to acknowledge what other people believe. Never ridicule them and never contradict them. And when you go from country to country, in every country, there are some beliefs like this. And this is one of the challenges for diplomats. Besides the political and military situations that we face, there are also other challenges, like knowing, what is the local folklore about various spirits that populate their countries. So Burma for me was my ringside seat on tree spirits.
Very rightly said, Ambassador Sir. I think there are so many things which we are not aware, and they hold the wealth of meaning, and it is holds true for so many people who believe in them. And it is, as you rightly said, only thing that we can do is to respect all the religions and all the cultures that we come across, and as you rightly did that, I don't know whether it is providence, coincidence, or whatever, but ultimately it was a happy ending, and your wife Isabel and your elder daughter were very fine. So that's a happy ending to a little bit of a irritating problem, a confusing problem. So all's well that ends well. And another thing I liked about the book is expressing your phobia. I think we are all at some point of time have the fear of lizards or cockroaches, and you had yours in the spiders. But to bring it out and say that you had a mental block where this was concerned, and bringing it into the book form, that made you very very human, just like one of us, not the the very excellent diplomat that you were. You become as down to earth and human as one of us, and we are able to relate because all of us have our own phobias of something or the other. So that was very nicely said. Now, the high point of the book is the Dharmateja episode, in which you trace his rise and fall from Tokyo to New York, and your pursuit of him to San Jose, in Costa Rica to London, and finally to New Delhi's Tihar Jail. Because of this, Ambassador B.K. Nehru lauded you as our James Bond. Please narrate this episode for our listeners, Ambassador Sir.
Well, I'll have to just give you this in very brief terms because it's quite a story. I could recount it from now till tomorrow morning.
And there's a whole chapter, as you said, it's a whole chapter. Almost it takes up the whole chapter.
Yeah.
I think the third chapter, I think.
Yeah, and it's a strange irony that I should see him at the height of his power when I was a young third secretary, language officer, later promoted to second secretary. At the height of his power, he had signed a major contract with Mitsubishi Shipbuilding, and he had placed an order for 12 of these bulk carriers. Every 3 months, a new ship was being launched, and all the Indian VIPs, whomsoever decided would come. The largest of them was launched by Morarji Desai, and it was a big event, a big reception. First of all, the launch of the ship itself was a big event, and there was a big reception in the ambassador's residence. All the top Japanese ministers came to it, etc. Then that I see him at the height of it. When I arrived 8 or 10 years later in New York, the first telegram that is given to me on the day I arrived by the consul general gives me a top secret telegram to say that this Mr. Teja has defrauded the company and has fled the company, has fled the country, has fled India. And the last information was that he was in the US and in New York staying at so-and-so hotel. So I went to the hotel and they confirmed that he had stayed there, but they said he had not left any forwarding address. So we sent, I went and called on the director of immigration and sent notes to the various consulates all over, particularly to those in Latin America, because we vaguely thought that maybe being the closest, that he might be in one of them. Now, I went to a number of them myself, and of course I had called on the director of immigration. And one of the things which my boss in Tokyo had always had told me, which had made a deep impression on me, he said, Alan, one of the things you must keep in mind that when we are in a foreign country, there are so many embassies, and you are dealing with a government that has to deal with so many of us. So one of the things we should do is in every field, wherever you go, try and make a friend. So you must have one friend somewhere in every single ministry, and at least, in various embassies. That was that was what I carried through my career right through. So when I went and met the director of immigration, we sort of struck a friendly rapport. I invited him out to lunch, to an Indian lunch, which he greatly enjoyed. And also when I went to all the other embassies, I found something to connect with them. Either it was something about India or something about their country or about the music or art or something or the other. With each one, you can find some little link. Now, this was maybe my good fortune. That about a month later, the director of immigration called me and he said that they have apprehended an Indian couple. The name had been changed. Instead of he was Dharma Teja Jayanti. He had now reversed the name and just call him Jayanti Dharma Teja, or some sort of a name, thing like that. So he said, could this be the couple you're looking for? So I said, do you have their photographs? He said, yes. So I went to see him. It turned out that they were the right people. So immediately they had them arrested. And I then, the next morning, went to see them. Dharma Teja, who immediately recognized me because he had remembered me from, both of them remembered me from Tokyo Day. And he was absolutely livid. He said that you have made me spend last night in a prison cell in my dress, in my dress suit. This is a humiliation, for, not just for me, for India. I am the friend. I'm one of India's leading ship owners. I'm a close friend of Jawaharlal Nehru, etc. So I said, I've come as a consular officer in order to help you. Of course, he said that is nonsense. But his wife then, who was most suave, said, Mr. Nazareth, I ask you a favor, please convey this message to Ambassador B.K. Nehru and please tell him to come to our rescue to get us, out of this jail as early as possible. I conveyed that message to B.K. Nehru, to which he said, well, they will have to stew in the juice which they have made for themselves, in the mess they have made for themselves, or something to that effect. But then the extradition case there started, charges were brought against them. We had the best lawyers on our side. Everything was going well, and she asked for bail. They asked for bail. The judge was our lawyer did his best to have it denied, but Mrs. Teja came and made an elegant and passionate appeal to the judge, who was obviously interested. So they granted them bail. Because of which, I must say, about a month or a month and a half later, they suddenly disappeared. There was a bail of 10,000. They forfeited. Now the question was where they have gone. And then, to my good luck, about 10 days later, I had gone out to an official lunch. My secretary told me that the Costa Rican consul general has made 4 calls saying that he wants to speak to you urgently. So when I came back to the office, I called him. And he said, I have some very important information to give you. Can I come to see you now? I said, yes, please do. And then he came and told me an amazing story. He said that the Teja couple was in Costa Rica, that they had been assisted to get there by a former president of Costa Rica. That his information was that they had paid him $30,000 US. So he had intervened on their behalf, not just to get them visas, but to give them Costa Rican passports. It was absolutely amazing information. Then I said, what do you think we should do? He said, I think we should immediately fly to Costa Rica. It seemed such an amazing and absurd situation. We had no the diplomatic relation with Costa Rica. Costa Rica is a remote country. And just on the basis of what he tells me, I told the consul general. The consul general also thought it was an absurd sort of situation. But it was so important. The government of India placed such a great importance on it that he knew we could not ignore this. So he said, you send a telegram to Delhi. I begged of him, sir, I've never sent a telegram to anyone at a high level. It was being dealt really at the level of secretary. I was just a young consul. Anyway, since he insisted, I sent it. I could, neither he nor I could believe it. In just 36 hours comes a telegram from secretary in the Ministry of Nazareth should go. I couldn't believe it. Oh, and we should go with this consul since he is willing to help us. So we both landed in Costa Rica, in San Jose, Costa Rica. In the hotel, when we arrived, the receptionist said, "We have not had any Indians here for many years. Just the other day, there was a couple. Now you have arrived." So I said, "What was the name of the couple?" They said, "Mr. and Mrs. Teja." So now this was the first proof I had, and we had, that they were now in Costa Rica. Then the amazing thing is, this man says, "Tomorrow morning we will go and meet the president." We have no diplomatic relations there. We have no contact except him. Now, he was the nephew of the president's wife. So we go to the presidential palace walking, and then, fortunately it was close to the hotel. And we enter the presidential palace through the kitchen, through the service entrance. And the president's wife is making the morning tea and breakfast for her husband with, two maids. And she is sort of taken aback. But, this is her cousin. So she can't say no. Anyway, she sort of, the usual thing, gives him a hug as a nephew and all that. And then he said, "You want to meet the president?" She was quite firm. She said, "No, you cannot meet the president in this way. With a foreign diplomat with you, you will have to make an appointment." So, but then he manages to persuade her. One of the things I forgot to mention, before coming here, he had suggested we go to Mexico before coming, where we met the Mexican ambassador, the Costa Rican ambassador to Mexico, who was a former president and who was the mentor of the present president of Costa Rica. So, and he had just recovered from a heart attack. So he said, "I can't give you any letter in my present condition, but I'll give you a card." On the card, on the back of his card, he has just written, "Please receive these friends of mine." So he showed this card to the president's wife in San Jose. Having seen that and from whom it had come, she hesitated. So she took it to her husband in the next room. So having seen the card, he said, "All right, he would receive us." So we then go into the president's into their inner sitting room. President is in his he is in his dressing gown, reading the newspaper. Then the Costa Rican consul, his name is Alfredo, tells me to recount the whole story to him. So I tell him the whole story about the Tejas and give him the documents, etc. He doesn't say a word. He just calls his police chief and tells him that it's unfortunate they have been let into the country. You just have them deported. The police chief says, "Yes, I can do it." The same afternoon, the police chief goes to the Teja residence, because I think the police knew where they were staying. But when the police entered the front at that front gate, they managed to slip out from someone must have tipped them off from the police headquarters itself, because Costa Rica, small country, and everyone owes allegiance to one party or the other. So he managed to disappear. 3 weeks later, his friend Figueres, the former president, was in Taiwan. He came back, and then he made an appeal on his behalf, and he made the point that he's a victim of political persecution. We cannot just expel him like that. We should at least give him a fair trial. So when we had him almost in our hands, he slipped out of our fingers. Then the thing went on. The extradition case went on for the next 2 or 2.5 years. In the meantime, Figueres, the former president, won the next election. So he became president of Costa Rica. And then, of course, having become president of Costa Rica, as always happens, he managed to get his own friends onto the Supreme Court, which was hearing this case. And they decided in Teja's favor. And we thought we had lost the entire case after all the effort we had made. But I had left one friend behind. That was the Foreign Secretary of Costa Rica. I had called on him after I had called on the president. just to make known my presence in Costa Rica. I told him the whole case, and he also was obviously embarrassed. He said, "Yes, we know that a former president had brought this influence on us. We advised our foreign minister against giving him the passport, allowing him to come in the country, but we were overruled." Now I discovered the fact that he received me itself was a big surprise because, as I said, we had no diplomatic relations. I had no prior appointment. He told me that the only reason why I've received you today is because of my great admiration for Mahatma Gandhi. I was delighted, I must say. So then I told him that now that you said this, I said, well, when I was leaving, why don't you try and help us to set up a Mahatma Gandhi Society in Costa Rica? He said he'd be glad to do it, and said, I'll help you in all the way possible. I sent him books on Gandhi, pictures on Gandhi, a little portable exhibition on Gandhi, etc. Now, about 18 months later, when Teja had won his extradition case, now he had been issued Costa Rican diplomatic passport. And now Costa Rica was too small for him, so he was keen to go to his old haunts in France and in the UK. Now, by then, I had left New York. All this thing earlier was when I was in the consulate in New York. I was now in Lima, Peru. I had been sent to open a new embassy there. I get this call all of a sudden from the former Costa Rican consul general, my Gandhian friend, to tell me that this man now has got his Costa Rican diplomatic passport, and he's now on his way to France. And he had managed, because one of his nephews was working in a travel agency, he had managed to get the entire travel itinerary of Teja. It was the most vital information. So I immediately, telegraphed it, sent a telegram to Delhi with all this information. We decided not to move against him in France because we had no extradition treaty there, but to move against him in London. When he arrived in London, he was arrested. And then he flaunted his diplomatic passport. It didn't work because the British said that the diplomatic passport immunities apply only to diplomats who are actually accredited, in your embassy here. You are just visiting someone. So he got arrested and put in jail. Amazingly, with all his money, he got Lord Dinglefoot to defend him, one of the top lawyers in London. But in spite of all this, it didn't work. So he was extradited to India, and he finally landed up in the Tihar jail. I think about a year or 18 months later, he asked to be moved to Hyderabad. So he came to Hyderabad and died in jail in Hyderabad. So that is my James Bond story. It's really was fascinating and gripping every moment of it, because we were dealing with the most powerful forces in Costa Rica. A former president who then becomes president, and everything on his side, including the Supreme Court. But maybe this is my good fortune and providence working for me, and it is being a Gandhian can also be a great asset diplomatically.
That was very interesting. 16 pages of chapter 5 in exactly 13 minutes. You have done a good job. So, very good editing. And it is very nice that Ambassador B.K. Nehru called you as our James Bond. Had he by mistake said it as a James Bond experience and you being young, it could have had different connotation. Thank God you only said our James Bond. I also like a small mention of something in page number 70, wherein you had been to a dining place in San Jose, and all of a sudden you find that the presence of both Mr. and Mrs. Teja, everybody acknowledges them, and many diners waved back at them. As they passed my table, they saw and recognized me. Mr. Teja looked away immediately, but Mrs. Teja, more suave, smiled and asked, "Are you based in Costa Rica now?" I replied with a reciprocal smile, "No, I have only come to assist you both in returning to India." But she self confidently replied, "How very kind of you." So that was very interesting, and shows that she's a very tough woman. And maybe they are used, they have been doing this defrauding and swindling and moving in high societies. Maybe it came easy for her. Anyway, that was very, I mean, the what to say, the heart of your book, which covers this Dharma Teja. And I'm sure if anybody is wanting to make this into a film, it will really be a James Bond thriller, let me tell you, Ambassador Sir. And also, describe for us briefly the horrifying events during your tenure as High Commissioner of India to Ghana, the coups, the executions there, and in the neighboring countries.
Yeah, Ghana really was my most difficult chapter, and if I might use the word, also my most bloody chapter, because I really saw, and if not directly on television and newspapers, the terrible things that happened. The coup in Ghana takes place just 4 days after I've arrived. Uh, and on the third night, there was a dinner in our honor given by my number two, who had been chargé d'affaires until I arrived. And it was mainly, of course, Indian, but it was a very pleasant, happy occasion, lots of good food and lots of drink. And when I came home, I fell fast asleep. In the middle of the night, Isabel nudges me and says, "I think something, unusual is happening. I can hear some firing, recurrent firing." I was so sleepy, I said it must be some Ghanaian festival. I heard that whenever they have such festivals, they sort of keep firing their rifles. So I went back to sleep. Half an hour later, she again nudges me and she says, "Now I can hear helicopters flying over our house." And then my little daughter comes running and says, "Daddy, Daddy," her room faced the driveway. So she said, "There are soldiers in our compound." I couldn't believe this. So I went down and she was right. There were soldiers in our compound with guns and everything. And they've taken positions facing army headquarters, which is just across the street from the back of our house. So I went down and I said, "My goodness," I said, "you are not supposed to be here. These are diplomatic premises. Please leave." The man then tells me in perfect English, his young captain, and Ghanaians speak good English. He said, "Mr. Ambassador, the bullets are about to fly. I suggest you go in now. We will discuss your diplomatic immunity later." And the way he said it, I knew he must be serious. So I thought that discretion is the better part of valor. So I went back into the house. And he was right. Within the next 3 or 4 minutes, the bullets began to fly. Some of them, we could hear hitting our walls coming from the other side. By next morning, the coup was finished. In fact, the main target of all these cousters is to get hold of the broadcasting station. Once you get hold of the broadcasting station, then you make an announcement that a coup has occurred and we have taken over, even if they have not taken over the rest of the country. But when that happens, the soldiers in uniform quickly shed their uniform, and suddenly the support for the existing government falls. Within the next 2 weeks, they got hold of the present president, three preceding presidents. There were also senior members, former foreign minister, chiefs of the army, navy, air force, etc., and got them all executed. It was just absolutely incredible, I must say. It was the bloodiest day in Ghana since they are independent. But we had to face a situation like this. Fortunately for me, and then they, once they had what they called cleansed the armed forces, they now began to, focus on the Indians and on the Lebanese more than the Indians. But all of them now, their houses were being raided, the people were being taken over, etc. Obviously, we had to do something. I hadn't presented my credentials, but I said, nonetheless, I'm going to do whatever I can. And I had learned one convention when I was in London, that a high commissioner is different from an ambassador in a Commonwealth country. High commissioners only in Commonwealth country. That when a high commissioner arrives and has presented his letter of credence to the chief of protocol, who receives him at the airport, he's considered to be in office. Even the chief of protocol didn't know. So when I went to the Foreign Office, asked to meet him, told the chief of protocol that I would like to meet the foreign minister. He said, Ambassador, but we can't schedule a meeting with the foreign minister because you haven't presented your credential. I told him, this is the convention. If you don't know and if you don't believe me, ask the British High Commissioner. So they called the British High Commissioner, who fortunately for me knew about this, and he confirmed that this was it. So then, I was received by the foreign minister, and I was accompanied by the foreign secretary, who, to my good luck, turned out to be someone whom I knew when I was in Japan. So now, all of a sudden, I found I had a friend in the Foreign Office, and the foreign minister, who was a lady, she, of course, said that, we are in the middle of, High Commissioner, we know we are in the middle of a revolution. Everything is done by by the Revolutionary Council. They don't listen to us. But however, I will do whatever I can, but I don't hold out much hope. But the former foreign secretary, whose name was Sam Pwan, later told me she, in fact, went and met the head of the Revolutionary Council. It was called the chairman, Jerry Rawlings. He was just a flight lieutenant in the Air Force. And he made the point to him, Lebanon is a small country, is not very influential, but India is an important country and a large country with influence all over the world, including in the United Nations. So we will have to be much more careful with the Indians. And I think this worked, because thereafter we found that at least the midnight raids on the Indians stopped and generally sort of tapered off. I wouldn't say they stopped, but the severity that was that. So obviously the words of the foreign minister had worked. Now this was all in June, July. The neighboring country, Liberia, obviously took lessons from this. In April of next year, something terrible happened there, where the presidential guard, mind you, who is supposed to guard the president, suddenly burst into the president's bedroom. And, bayonets the poor president there, I don't know, many times. The descriptions were that, in fact, his stomach was all sort of cut over, even his intestines where came out, etc. And then they then got the whole of the top elite, including the chief justice, the foreign minister, everyone, except for some strange reason, fortunately, the finance minister, who was a lady, was not touched. All the others were taken out to the beach, tied to poles on a beach. It was an open event. There were 15,000 people, present to see this, all shot. And then people took pictures, who then sold them to local calendar makers, who made calendars showing the ones in black and white were $1, the ones in color were $5. And the calendar showed these victims before their execution and after their execution. You can't think of, and of course this was all on television, you can't think of anything really more gruesome and terrible than this. Now, these are the sort of things that we as diplomats sometimes, have to witness or have to handle. It is the most gruesome thing, but the fact is, we might not like it, but this is the history of that country being made. And to that extent, we have a ringside seat on that history. It is because of this that because of this and the other things that are mentioned, are learning about the entry of His Holiness into India. A few hours after he has crossed over there, sitting in the Prime Minister's office, is the most amazing thing that you could imagine. That is why I decided to name this book A Ringside Seat on History, because I have seen a lot of this history being made at very close quarters. Not all of it is very pleasant, I can assure you. Some of it is really gruesome, but it is history. Yeah, I could speak on, but I think we are running out of time, so I better be short.
So indeed, sir, at times history can be very gruesome. It can be very painful. Even as you were just, I don't know, you have been privy to all such happenings, but just hearing to that itself, it is something very terrible. Just imagine being shot, lined up, and then being shot. It does happen. But anyway, listening to that itself, I have got goose pimples. Anyway, I also wanted to ask whether all the diplomats and high commissioners face such experiences and have such incidents? Or is it all of them? You're able to tell it so very beautifully. We feel that it's only happening to Ambassador Nazareth.
Yeah, I'm sure a whole lot of my colleagues have instances, have incidents like this that they have gone through their lives. But I must say, interacting with all my various colleagues, I have not come across anyone else who have had really, in a way, number one, such a widespread, what shall I say, postings. I started off in Japan, then went to Burma, then went to New York, then went to Peru in South America, came back to India, then went to London, then went to Ghana in West Africa. Came back to India, went to New York, went to Chicago first, then to New York, then to Egypt, then to Mexico. Now, I must tell you, there are not many of my colleagues who have had really such a widespread postings of countries, both highly advanced and fairly or quite backward. To that extent, I think mine is somewhat of an exceptional story. Also, at a time when some of these countries, and particularly in Africa, were going through very traumatic experiences.
I think indeed it has been very varied, your experiences. I think you were at the right time at these right places, so you were able to experience and so beautifully bring out all these incidents. Now, as Director General of Indian Council for Cultural Relations, you transformed the lethargic cultural body into the dynamic soft power arm of India's diplomacy. How did you achieve this?
Well, I think what helped me was my deep interest in the cultural field, and I had learned from former Foreign Secretary K. Kotra, who has written the foreword to my book, something which always I kept in my mind, that when it comes to culture, India is the superpower. Now, I have always been deeply interested in culture. As brought up in a Christian family, I was fairly well acquainted with Mozart, Beethoven, Bach, all the others. But once I joined the Foreign Service, I came to discover, in fact, the first time it happened was in the house of a junior member of my staff who would invite us to dinner, and there was some music that was playing. And it happened to be, I asked, it was a flute recital. And I asked, who was the musician? He said it was Pannalal Ghosh. And it suddenly struck me, my God, I've been raving about Mozart's flute concerto. And this is so much more ethereal in a way. And this for me was the opening up of a whole new chapter. Thereafter, I began to listen to a lot of Indian music. and then Indian dance. And I then got deeply involved in this. So by the time I came to the ICCR, I had not only a fairly wide and deep interest in cultures of not only of India but of all other lands, thanks to my meeting with Zubin Mehta, including the most sophisticated of all Western forms of music, which is opera. And in my posts abroad, also, I established contacts in these fields, which came in very useful once I took over the foreign service. One of the things which I also learned once I came to the ICCR, but there was a lot of culture which was overflying India. Cultural troops from England, from Europe over, flying either to Japan or to China or to Australia or New Zealand. So I said, why don't we try and catch some of this culture, these cultural troops, to make a stopover in India at no extra cost. They can do it. So we tried this out. The first big success was to get an Australian Aborigine group, which had gone to the UK, I think for some Commonwealth Games or something, which were now going back to Australia. So I sent a message and I said, would you like to make a stopover in India? And after some correspondence, they said, yes, well, why not? And it was amazing. We had never had a group like that in India. And Mrs. Gandhi came, visited for the performance, which was held on the grounds of the Nehru Memorial Library. It was an open-air event. And there's some amazing pictures of these are Australian Aborigines, sort of painted up the way they are, with their long, flutes that have got a particular name there, and their drums and other things. This was the first, but thereafter we got a whole lot of others. We got subsequently we got the Turkish. They're called the dervish dancers. But then from these little things, smaller things, we then managed to get the Samuel Royal Ballet. We got the Peaky, we got the Paris Opera with Rudolf Nureyev. We got the Bolshoi Ballet. And we got a whole lot of other major events like this. But the most major events of all was the New York Philharmonic, led by Zubin Mehta. My God, I must say, no one has ever handled anything like that, because they presented one concert in Delhi, one in Calcutta, and two in Bombay. And it was also a very difficult thing to handle, because they insisted that the planes in which they arrive must also be the planes in which they will travel, through India. Now, no foreign plane had ever been allowed to travel within the country. They had to get off those planes and travel in Indian aircraft within India. But so this had to be taken up, right, to the Prime Minister. It's only on her intervention that DGCA reluctantly agreed to allow this to happen. So I certainly felt happy, and not only that, but then we also sent Indian cultural troops, the festivals of India. The whole concept was devised then, thanks to Pupul Jaikar and Kapila Vatsan and others, where the concept was that, like breaking through the sound barrier, you must break through the culture barrier. And for this, you have to build up a certain mass and momentum. So sending up, one little cultural group here, another one there, doesn't really, it's like, pouring water in the sand. So the Festivals of India concept was made where, just to give you an example, in the US festival, we sent over an 18-month period, almost 50 different cultural, manifestations, exhibitions of ancient art, folk dancers, classical musicians, Indian film, and they traveled through 80 different cities all over the US. It made a major impact all over the US. The similar things were then repeated in Britain, in the Soviet Union, maybe also in China. And I certainly enjoyed it very much, though initially I was reluctant to go to that job because I was told that this job is only meant for women because two of my predecessors were women, and I felt I didn't like being teased about it. So I had in fact gone to Foreign Secretary to complain about this. But then he told me this, and then I was completely won over, and I really enjoyed this particular job, and I believe I was greatly enriched by it. I think much more enriched in this job than in all my other jobs.
That instrument is called as a digidiro. It is that 1.5 meters.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
Because I had seen this when I had gone to Sydney, made a point to understand what it is. They even told me the spelling, though I have forgotten, but I remember the pronunciation.
Thank you so much.
Indeed, it is very heartening to know that a foreign service diplomat has taken so much of interest in our cultural heritage, and no wonder. I have attended some of the programs in NGMA, some cultural talks, and you were always there to ask certain pertinent questions. So, if only many of our government officials and other diplomats were as active as you are, we have so much to promote. Indian cultural heritage can really make a mark. But unfortunately, we don't know. It again takes a different temperament to take cultural heritage forward. Coming to a very personal matter, you have mentioned that your son's leg and life were miraculously saved through Mother Teresa's intervention. We would like to hear from you about this in brief.
Yeah, that is the closest that I've come to a real miracle, taking place. Very close to me, within my own family. I had, in my book, I have mentioned how I had met Mother Teresa for the first time on a plane flying from Lima to India via Rome on an Alitalia plane. When we left Lima, the plane was not really, more or less half empty. It then landed in Caracas, and among the few people who got in there, some more people. Now the plane was about 3-4 full. Was Mother Teresa. She walked past me. I couldn't believe it. I thought that this was my only child, so I asked to go and sit next to her. She kindly agreed. So I sat next to her, and for 8 hours we had a long talk. It was really, for me, the most memorable and deeply inspiring meeting I've ever had with anyone. So some years later, when I was in Delhi, in fact, in the ICCR towards the end of my stay, it turned out my son was walking with a limp. So when we took sort of remedies and CGHS, government, the medical dispensaries, the remedies didn't work. We took him, as advised by some friends, to the All India Institute of Medical Science, where they did a biopsy, and sadly it turned out to be a malignant tumor in his left leg. It was then sent to the Tata Memorial Hospital and they also confirmed that this was so. So at short notice, the AMS recommended that the one chance of saving his life would be to take him to the Sloan Kettering Hospital in New York, which was at that time the best for cancer treatment. Now, the only way I could go there, I certainly couldn't afford this on my own, was if the Foreign Service came to my rescue, which they very kindly did. Ramesh Bhandari, the moment I confided to him, he said, "Don't worry, we are with you." So he immediately called the Joint Secretary Administration, asked him what post was available in the US. And he said the only vacant post was that of Consul General in Chicago. Someone has been appointed there already, but he hasn't taken charge. So the Foreign Secretary said, "You just cancel that and post Nazareth there." So at 7 days' notice, we left India. My colleague in New York was so kind, he asked us to stay with him. So we stayed there for the first few days until Andy was admitted. My son Andy was admitted to Sloan Kettering. 3 or 4 days later, I flew to Chicago to charge of my post there. Then Andy was being, we were told, would have to undergo chemotherapy for at least 8 or 10 weeks. And then the surgery was fixed for, I think, the 20th or 21st of December of 1985. Now, we had a very renowned doctor who said that everything had gone well and he had stood the operation well, and he thought everything would be okay. But on the third morning, Andy developed a fever, which in the morning was 100, not 100.4 or something. But by evening, it had reached 104. It was sort of climbing every hour. I was greatly concerned. However, I hope that when the doctor came that evening, he would say, no, don't worry, this always happens. So by tomorrow, the day after, he'll come down. Instead of that, he said, I'm also greatly concerned because this could be only one of three reasons. Either that this is an infection. He said, in a hospital like this, where we place such a great emphasis on sanitation, etc., the chances are less than 10%. He said, or it could be a flu. He said, but there is no flu at all reported in this part of town. Or he said, thirdly, it may be the body rejecting the transplant, in which case we would have to amputate the leg. My God, it was such a great blow to Isabel and me. We had flown all the way to New York to save his leg. Now, if he was going to lose his leg, I'm pretty sure both he and we would have just died of the shock of it. Now, that same evening, someone has come into the hospital distributing Christmas gifts. It was Christmas Eve for all the sort of children in this ward. Andy was admitted in the children's ward because he was less than 18 at that time. And he happened to be a Jewish convert to Catholicism. When he discovered we were from India, he told us this. And then he said he was working in Mother Teresa's charity for AIDS patients in the Bronx. So we told him that we knew Mother Teresa very well, and that, she had come at my request, she had come and opened one of her missionaries of charity homes in Lima, Peru. And I said Andy was the one that she called to be the altar boy at the first service. And when Andy said, Mother, I don't know anything, I've never done this before, she said, don't worry, I'll tell you. So this is what we told him. So he went back, and what a strange and amazing coincidence, so providential. That very night, Mother Teresa has flown from Caracas to New York on her way back to India. She was just spending one night and one morning, because the Air India flight leaves in the evening at 8 o'clock. That night she was there. So this man has met her at Mass the next morning and said there is some Indian couple in Sloan Kettering who seem to know you. So she said, what is the name? And he said, Nazareth. She remembered. Almost 10 or 11 years had passed by since we had met in Lima, and she had opened her mother church. She said, if it is the Nazareth family, I must go and see him. He's one of the few Catholics in the Indian Foreign Service. And I must certainly go and see him. So then she arrives unannounced in Sloan Kettering Hospital. There is a great commotion there because she's already a great celebrity. The previous year, President Reagan has given her the Presidential Medal of Honor. So everyone knew her in New York. They also knew her because of the AIDS clinics she had set up, the home she had set up for AIDS patients. So there's a great commotion. The receptionist called the director, the chief of nurses, etc. They all came rushing down. Sadly, I was not there. Then they accompany Mother Teresa and enter Andy's room. Isabel is shocked. She can't believe Mother Teresa, with all these people, have entered their room. So she comes and she prays over him and tells them to repeat a prayer after him to the infant Jesus. And then tells them that if you believe firmly that baby Jesus or the infant Jesus will help you, cure you. You will be cured. You will be cured. And then she pats him on both the cheeks and leaves. Now, this was about 12 o'clock. By 8 o'clock that night, the fever, still fairly high, 100 and 300, begins to come down. By next morning, it is gone. And when Andy was being discharged from hospital 7 days later, they always do a test, a test to check for malignancy. Malignant cells still in the body. They find a complete absence of malignant cells. Now, I asked the surgeon, is this common? He said, I must admit, this is unusual. Because in every case we find, even in the best cases, that there are at least 4 or 5% of malignant cells still left. So we have to continue the treatment, the chemotherapy for the next 3 or 4 months. This is really the closest I have come to a miracle. The complete absence of all malignant cells, and the fact that Andy's cancer has not recurred through all these years. Now it is from 85 now to 20. How many? It is 35 years. Has never recurred. Now this is the closest that I have come to a miracle. Until then, I was not sure whether miracles happen. People would speak about this miracle, that miracle, etc., etc. But from that day, I do believe in miracles, and I believe prayer is what, and deep faith is what can work a miracle.
You are indeed a blessed ambassador, because personal tragedies, they have had a happy ending, and you were, I think, lucky enough to have the grace of the Almighty. And I see the M.F. Hussein's picture behind you of Mother Teresa. Did you get that after this incident, or was it always there?
Yeah, yes, it was presented to me by M.F. Hussein, whom I have known since my ICCR days. Actually, I had, he knows me and my family quite well, and I had recounted the story to him. And 3 days later, he came to visit me. This was his travel. He was there for some time. He was leaving for India the next day, and we came with something rolled up under his arm. And then he had kept it on my table. Then he got up to leave. So I said, "No, Hussein Saab, you have forgotten something." He said, "No, I brought it for you. Have a look at it." So I opened it. I couldn't believe it. So I said, "I'm afraid I cannot accept this because it's far too valuable." He said, "I've not given it to you. I've just brought it for you. You frame it and put it up in your house. Why, one day I'll ask for you. I'll take it back from you." And since that time, he has visited my house, even here, even in Bangalore, 2 or 3 times. Says before he died, sadly, ultimately he had to leave the country because of all the way he was persecuted for painting some nude, what we call nude pictures of Indian goddesses. So again, I told him, your loan is still with me. He said, yes, keep it. I'm going to ask of it from you one day. So it is still with me, and it's the most precious thing that I have, and it is the center of our home, and it is the center of our lives.
You are indeed very lucky, Ambassador. Now, where can our listeners buy your widely acclaimed book? On the back cover, the Cambridge University professor Jaideep Prabhu has aptly lauded, saying that coups, near-death experiences, encounters with the political and spiritual VIPs, as also fraudsters on the run. This book has it all. A ringside seat to history is as exhilarating as unputdownable, if ever there is a word like that.
Yes, I love the word unputdownable.
Even I also liked it.
Yes, well, Book is available. I think the easiest way to get the book is in India on Amazon.com or Flipkart. Abroad, it is on Amazon.com. In India, it's Amazon.in. But in India, it's also available at all these IBD stores. I think it's Indian Book Depot stores. And it's also available, I was amazed to discover, on very elegant stores in the UK, like Foyles, for instance, and Waterstones, and some other stores in the US, online stores. But the easiest, as I said, to get it would be on Amazon.com or Amazon.in in India and Flipkart.
Thank you so much, sir. It is now 1 hour 20 minutes since we started our discussion. I think I will be wrapping it now. There are no questions, but I'll sum up some compliments that has come your way. I think the audience is listening to such an experience firsthand for the first time, and I think they are still in awe and then no questions. So thank you, Ambassador Sir, for this wonderful 1 hour insight of your autobiography. Pandit Nehru remarked, the IFS provides the service of two people for salary of one. Your beautiful life partner has very well adjusted to wherever you were posted and for the frequent travels. And she indeed has been a pivot of your life. I parrot former Ambassador KP Fabian when he said, life is lived forward but written backwards. In all, this autobiography is absorbing with a broad spectrum of politics, history, adventure, cultural heritage, literature, and spirituality. Thank you once again, Ambassador Nazareth, sir, for the lovely conversation. And I highly recommend our esteemed viewers to read this book, though books have taken a back seat in the fast-paced virtual world. I think thanks to COVID, the habit would have once again been revived. And for me personally, I vouch for his warmth, affection, positivity, and his zest for life, more so when he tends to his terrace garden personally, that has a profusion of orchids, crotons, and other flowering plants. I wish you many more years of good health and creative pursuits. We are looking for another one or two books from your pen. And as a saying goes, I end this with this: wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. That would encapsulate Ambassador Pascal Alan Nazareth's persona. So, with these few words, I will now wrap up. I have wrapped up my discussion, and I will just take the beautiful comment that has come over here. I will, Mr. Vukem Satyanarayana Murthy from Hyderabad has very beautifully summed it up, saying that it was interesting to listen to Sri Pascal Alan Nazareth, former ambassador, presenting the diversity of his experiences and events in his diplomatic career. We also understand from his talk the roles of a foreign service diplomat, taking on including struggles and associations with eminent people and handling certain issues with the sensitivity and other insights. Then he also says, he asked a question, sir, how was your association with Srimati Indira Gandhi and your experience and role at the time of emergency declaration in 1975 and subsequent situation?
Is there time for me to answer that?
Yes, yes. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Ambassador.
I must say that, my contact with, close contact with Indira Gandhi came once I came to the ICCR. Before that, with the emergency, there were so many critical comments about her in India and abroad. And in fact, I was in London when she visited there, and all the sort of comments. She was called the tigress. We were highly critical of her as a very authoritarian woman, dictatorial, cold, scheming, etc. So I had quite a negative, I must confess, a negative opinion about her until I came to the ICCR. For the first time, I saw her great sensitivity towards culture and to musicians, dancers, sculptors, etc. On the very first meeting, 4 days after I'd taken over, she came to one of our events. It was the Cuban ballet, national ballet, one of the most outstanding, certainly in Latin America. And we had close relations with Cuba, so she came and a number of other VIPs, including the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi and one or two others. Now, on that occasion, she made a complaint against the ICCR. She said that the leading poet of Ireland, Irish poet Kathleen Raine, I hear had come here as a guest of the ICCR, and no one informed me about it. I said, I sincerely apologize on behalf of ICCR, Madam Prime Minister, but I was not here at that time. But I would like to assure you that every time in the future when there is some important cultural personality or troupe that comes in, I will send a message to your social secretary, who I hope will bring it to your notice. Now, having made those notes, I also sent them to the Foreign Minister's office, also to the Sangeet Academy, and whichever was the academy involved. Not one of the others ever responded to these notes of mine. But in at least 3 out of 4 cases, Mrs. Gandhi would respond and attend. If not 3, at least 2 out of 4 things. And then she would come and then she would sit and take so much of interest. And one of the things I can never forget is we had a handicapped group from the UK who were highly talented and who were trying to bring out the message that even the differently abled, as they are called, artists are really as highly talented as the others. Now, Mrs. Gandhi had told me, conveyed to us through a social secretary, that she'll come for this but can only stay for half the event because she was hosting a dinner that night. So at the half time, I took her on stage in order to meet the artist. They were, of course, absolutely thrilled to see her and never expected that they would meet a prime minister like this. And then when they heard that she was leaving, they pleaded of her to say, the climax of the story is in the second half. We would be so grateful if you stayed, and we would be so disappointed if you leave now. You won't believe it. She asked me, can you send a message to my house? I said, yes, madam, you can easily do that. Then she decided to stay. Now, that was the day it struck me, really, what a compassionate woman this was. Here are handicapped people, most of them quite young, who are making this plea to her. She already has hosting a dinner that night, and she decides to stay. So for me, it was absolutely amazing. And so when she, was assassinated, I was really so deeply grieved.
It's very surprising, Ambassador Sir, that Prime Minister Indira Gandhi has had a softer side. As you brought out this incident, it really shows that deep within, compared to what we were all thinking about her, there is a soft side to her nature. Dr. Nagara Sharma from Bengaluru says, a heart-touching program and well-narrated one. Thank you, Destination Heritage and Dr. Githa ji. So I end up with one more word of appreciation from V. Satyanarayana Murthy, Hyderabad, who says that it was a wonderful discussion and interaction of Dr. Githa with eminent diplomat and a former ambassador. So that says it all, Ambassador Sir. And I thank you very, very much for this wonderful opportunity to interact with you on a virtual forum. I wouldn't know that whether this would have been possible if it was physical, but thanks to the COVID, I really got to interact with some wonderful people and well-known personalities like the Princess of Travancore and Padma Shri Dr. K.K. Mohammed, who inaugurated our program. And next week, we are going to close this 6-month-long webinar program by another Padma Shri one Mr. Padma Shri Gopal Dubey, who is an exponent of the 3 forms of Chow drama and dance. So thank you so much. And on this note, we call it a day. Thank you
One
so
moment,
much.
one moment. I must say a big thank you to you. Yeah, you have now become so renowned that I must confess I was rather worried being interviewed by you whether I could meet your I could meet your high standards in my old age. Thank you very, very much. I've greatly enjoyed this program, and I'm deeply grateful that you have honored me by airing this program and having this conversation with me.
On
Thank
the
you.
other hand, you have been very kind and very down to earth, and I'm really very grateful that you wanted me to interview on my platform about this wonderful book, A Ringside Seat to History. It is worth the time spent and worth the money spent to purchase this book. So thank you so much, Ambassador sir, and good night, ladies and gentlemen, till we see you next Saturday.